Let's get started. First, remove the sprite that comes loaded with Scratch. Then we're going to add the backdrop. I've already created a backdrop in Photoshop and I'm going to be using that one, but you can use any backdrop you want. Add a backdrop. I'm going to be updating my uploading my backdrop myself. I'm going to convert it to vector so I can increase the size and have it fill the whole scene. I'm going to line it up so that the main center of my scene is in between these two oak wood trees. The bird is going to fly from the left to the right. Okay, I think we're done with the backdrop. Now it's time to add the sprites for the pipe and then the bird. First, let's start with the pipe. Click Choose a Sprite and then hover over it and click Paint. We're going to be painting the pipe sprite. Change the name of the sprite to Pipes. Draw the first pipe coming from the top and another pipe coming from the bottom, making sure to leave a space. If you want to know what Flappy Bird looks like, here is the gameplay. Feel free to use this as a inspiration. You can make it as close to the real thing as possible. The pipes, the goal of the game is for a bird to try to fly through the pipes and there will be a little bit of a hole in the middle. Let's watch one more time. Okay. So with that in mind, let's draw our pipe. First, click on the rectangle tool. Then, draw a rectangle from the top of the scene of the window to somewhere around the center mark. The center mark is marked on your scene. You can make your pipe and design it any way you choose. When you have your rectangle drawn, you can change the color. I'm going to go ahead and choose a gradient by clicking on the second square, and I'll be able to choose the colors of my pipe. I like this color. I'm going to say OK. If I want, I can change the colors. If I wanted a more green color, I can leave it like that. I'm going to create an outline. I'm going to click on the outline and choose the 4 number. This makes it look a little bit more cartoony, which is the design that I'm going for. I'm going to change the color of the outline to be more green. Feel free to take this time and just get it working how you want it. Just going to add a little bit of green into this outline. Now you can add a opening for each pipe we'll draw a smaller rectangle that is going to be horizontal. When you're happy with the top portion of your design, click on the arrow, the mouse pointer on the left side of your on the toolbar. Click and drag until you have both of the items selected, the pipe and the pipe opening. When you do that, they will have this button here at the top. On this horizontal toolbar, there's a button called Copy. Go ahead and click that button. This will duplicate the items, the blocks that you've selected on the screen. With those blocks duplicated, we can, once we've copied those two blocks, duplicated, we just click Paste. Now we have two copies of the same pipe. Let's do that again to show you. So you click on, I'm going to once again give this an outline. Okay, so we click on the arrow mouse pointer, click and drag until we have an outline, and then we let go of our mouse until we have both of these selected and they're in blue. We copy and paste. That way we get an exact copy of the top pipe. I can then flip this pipe, clicking on the flip vertical button. There are a lot of these buttons that get activated, get enabled when you have when you've selected the items that you want to apply the effects to. So you can think of this bar as your effects bar, and we're going to click on the flip vertical button once. Clicking on it flips the direction of the mouthpiece of the pipe. With the select tool still selected, we're going to go ahead and move this pipe to the bottom, making sure that it is exactly lined up by using the shift key so that it won't move easily. And we're just going to make sure that there's a little bit of a space in between the two pipes. So when you're happy with your design, zoom out and just make sure everything looks good. For now, this looks fine. We might need to make some adjustments later on. But I think we're now ready to write some code to make the pipes move across the screen. Click the Code tab, click on the Events category, look for the When Green Flag Clicked block, and bring that block into your code editor, your block editor. I'm going to set the size of the pipes script, the pipes block. I'm going to go and click on the looks category, and with these looks selected, I'm going to turn off this dark mode so your scratch looks similar to mine. Okay, so I'm going to click on the purple blocks looks and set the size to 200%. There. That is a little better. That gives me a little bit of maneuvering room to be able to set these openings that the bird flies through at different heights throughout the game. Then I'm going to hide the pipe. So these blocks are they're always referring to the sprite, that the character that I have selected. So when I'm saying setting the size to 200%, I'm always talking about the sprite that I have selected. So right now we only have one sprite. So what we're talking about here is set the size to 200%, and then hide it. When I click on the block, it runs this code, and what you see on the right in the preview window is the pipe has been hidden. We're going to click on Control and drag in our favorite block, which is our forever block. So click on forever and drag it into your script. These blocks combined together make a script. Inside the forever, we're going to click on Control and look for a block called Create Clone of Myself. Click on that block and drag it into the slot for forever. Forever is a loop. You can tell when you see this arrow. This means that anything that you put inside here is going to be run in a loop. In this case, it's going to be run forever. So we're going to keep making clones of this pipe every 2 seconds. So when we want to say every 2 seconds, that block is called wait 2 seconds. So we're going to create a clone, wait 2 seconds, and then go back to the top of this block and create a clone again. So I'm going to look at the wait 1 second block. I'm going to click it and drag it under the create clone inside of the forever loop. And the way the loops work is this. So here, let me bring this block in so we can see it. So this is a loop, and we can think of a loop like this. We have an instruction telling Scratch, hey Scratch, make a clone of myself. Clone me. And the me here we're talking about is that pipe sprite. Okay? And then we're going to wait 1 second. So the next thing we tell Scratch is, hey, just wait 1 second. And then what we do is that arrow, you see that arrow? That means we're going to go back to the top and start again. And the reason we're doing this over and over again is because this is called a game loop. And in a game loop, the game loop runs forever. Okay, so that is what we mean by this. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's go back to our game and we can change this one to 2 seconds. So we're going to wait 2 seconds. Okay, so since we've created a clone of ourselves, we have another block that we can use. Every time we say create a clone of myself, we also have to use another block that comes as a pair called when I start as a clone. And you can think of that block as a continuation block. So every time we have this block here called create clone of myself, well, it's going to point to another block called when I start as a clone. So when I start as a clone is going to be run every time this block is run. Okay, so think of when I start as a clone as a block that is paired, and it's paired up with create clone of myself. So we'll keep it next to here so we don't confuse ourselves. So when I start as a clone, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show myself. So I'm going to click on the looks category, look for the block called show, and I'll show myself. The reason we're doing it is because if you look over here, we're hiding the sprite. So because we're hiding it, every time I start as a clone, it inherits the properties that were set to the person, to the block that made the clone. So if the original block, if the original sprite was hidden, the clone would also be hidden. So we have to show the pipes. And then we're going to send the pipe to a specific location. So we're going to send the pipe, we're going to click on the motion category and click on go to X and Y. And what I'm going to do is go to a special location on the screen. The X is going to be 240 and the y we'll just say 0 for now. So x is 240, y is 0. Then we're going to glide 4 seconds to the point where x is minus 240. So we're going to go from the right side of the screen all the way to the left side. So there is a block called glide 1 seconds to x and y. We're going to use that block. Glide 4 seconds to x minus 240. And y is going to be 0 just like it was before. And then we're going to delete this clone. Because the clone, once it's all the way on the left side, we no longer need it. It's outside the view of the user, so we can go ahead and delete it. So I'm going to click on Control, and then I'm going to click on Delete this clone. Okay, I'm going to change the minus 240 to minus 220 just to get rid of this extra frame that we don't need. And I'm going to maybe try to do it to 200. That might be better. Okay, that solves the extra frame bug, so we don't have it hanging around. It just deletes as soon as it reaches the edge. So once you're happy with your result, you can move on to the next part, which I'm going to show you. I think I'm happy with this. We can always fine-tune it later on. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is let's take a look at Flappy Bird again. We'll notice that the pipes are not always the same. Sometimes the holes that the bird has to go through are on the shorter side, and sometimes the openings are much taller. In our game over here, the openings are always the same. So we're going to change that. So let's take a look at what we're doing when we're talking about x's and y's. I'm going to go into my sketchpad because I need this to show you. So bear with me for a second. Scratch is made up of 4 quadrants. This is the x and y coordinate plane. And in the middle is 0, 0. So over here we have 240 for the x-axis and minus 240 for the x-axis. So our bird starts somewhere over here. Our bird is going to be represented by this dot. Whoops. The bird starts somewhere over here, and we're telling this block. Let's take a look at this block here. Right, so the bird starts where x is at 240. It's exactly here. Okay. And we tell our bird to glide. Glide 4 seconds until you are at minus 200. And that's why we have the pipes, sorry, not the bird, the pipes moving from here to here using this block. And then when they get here, we make them disappear. Okay? So they go away. We could also do the same thing for the y-axis. So the y-axis controls where the bird is up and down. So the y-axis also has somewhere over here 180 and somewhere down here minus 180. So we can pick a random number for the pipes to start on. They can start somewhere all the way down here. They can start up here. That differentiating line is the y-axis, and it goes from minus 180 to the bottom here all the way to 180 to the top. These are just the numbers that are available in the X and Y plane of Scratch. Okay, so if you were to explore Scratch, you'd find these numbers there. Why there are these numbers? Why not 300 or 400? You're going to have to ask them. That's just the way they've designed it. So let's put some random numbers here. So instead of y being 0, we're going to pick a random number. So you could find a random number in the operators block. It's a green rounded rectangle block. We put it on the first block at go to X and Y. We're going to pick a random number from -80 to +80. The pipes are moving even after, especially after they're spawned, the clone is made. That's because we're resetting the y to 0. We don't want to do that. We want to keep the y to be the y that was there. So what we're going to do here is change the number 0 to y. And the y coordinate is found in the motion category. So click on the motion category. Eventually you'll come to a rounded rectangle at the bottom called y position. Click on that rounding rectangle and place it in terms of the y. Okay, so now the pipes stay at the height that they were originally spawned in. Okay, so it's time now for the bird. So we're going to have a bird that's going to flap around the screen and try to make it through these pipes. So click, choose a sprite, and the bird we're going to use is Parrot. That's going to be our Flappy Bird. The reason Parrot and not others is because parrots in Scratch have two costumes, Parrot A and Parrot B. We need a sprite that has two costumes. If you have one that you would like to use, just make sure that your sprite has two costumes. We're going to click on Parrot A and change the name of the costume to Wings Up. And Parrot B, click on costumes and change it to Wings Down. We're going to change the name of the parrot to Flappy to keep our coding naming making sense, because this is Flappy Bird and not Parrot Bird. Click on Flappy to make sure that we're going to be coding for Flappy, and click on the Code tab. Again, making sure that we're clicking on Flappy. Bring over a new block from the events category called when green flag is clicked into your code editor. Change the size of Flappy to 25%. Click the looks category. Look for the block called set size to 100%. Click on it and drag it and attach it to the bottom of the first block to make your first script in the Flappy sprite. Change the size so that it's 25%. When you click on the block, you'll see that the parrot has now gone much smaller. Feel free to change this number to what makes sense for your game. Click on Motion and click on Go to X and Y and send Flappy to a special location. X is -50 and Y is 0. Remember that -50 and 0 means somewhere pretty close to the center. If we're talking about the center being 0, 0, that's the center over here, then, and this is somewhere in the 200s, then -50 will be pretty close. So Flappy is going to start right in the center, just about. Center would be 0, -50 is left of the center. Bring in our favorite block, Control. That block is called Forever. And let's make Flappy drop down and obey gravity. We're going to change y by -3. Click on motion, click on change y by, and in the block where it says 10, just change it by -3. When we do that, and we click on the blocks, you'll see that Flappy falls down. This entire scene is based off this plane. The plane has limits. Remember we set 220 at the top, -2 or 180 at the top, and -180 at the bottom. 220 at the set on the right side and -220. If the y, so let's only look at the y, let's only look at this one here. I'll make this green. If the y is 0 at the beginning, and we have a block that says change y by -3, it's going to change y by -3. So it'll be 0, and then it'll be -10, -20, all the way until it gets to the bottom, and that's where it'll stop, because Scratch puts a hard limit. So no blocks or sprites are allowed to leave this. Okay, so no one is allowed to leave. That's why the bird is still here, even though we keep saying forever change it to -3. You'd think it'd go back down to -1,000,000, but it doesn't. It stops at around 180. Okay, so now let's make the bird flap its wings and be able to go through these pipes. So we're going to do that when we press the space bar. This game is going to use the space bar. Click on Events and click when space key is pressed, drag it into your blocks editor. So we're going to switch the costumes to wings down. Okay, we're going to switch the costumes to wing down. Then we're going to repeat something 5 times. It's going to take Flappy 5 ticks, and when it does that, we're going to make Flappy go up. So we're going to change y by 7. Okay, change y by 7. But we want to do that 5 times. So I'm going to repeat 5 times and put change y by 7 inside that repeat loop. So I'm going to go to click on Control, click on Repeat, bring that in here, and then put the change y inside of this block. And we're going to change the 10 to 7. So I'm going to repeat something 7 times, and what I'm going to repeat is I want to change y by 7, and I want to do the same thing again, but make the wings go up this time. Okay, so I'm going to do this again, repeat, and this time I'm going to put a switch costume to wings up before I repeat again. So I'm repeating something 7 times, changing y, repeating something 7 times, changing y, and this whole time this is happening, this is also happening, right? So we're also forever changing y by -3. So Flappy's always obeying, gravity's always pulling Flappy down, but when we press the space key, we defy gravity, we change y by 7. So y is over here, the green line that I'm going to be creating, this is y, and Flappy goes down and up and down and up. So why don't we just show you how to do that? Let's see if this works. I'm going to click the green flag, and there it is. Flappy is able to go through the pipes. let's add the finishing touches to this game. First, we're going to make sure that Flappy cannot touch the pipe, and if we do, it ends the game. So making sure that we're still in the Flappy sprite, that's hard to say. We're going to click on Events and create another when green flag script. Then I'm going to click on Wait Until. So that is in the control category. And what wait until does is it pauses the execution of this script until whatever is inside of this space happens. And what we want to do is wait until two things. So we're going to choose operators and choose an OR operator, which gives us two slots, not just one. And what I want to do is wait until I'm touching the pipes or touching the edge. Touching is a sense, so click on the sensing block and click touching. And then we're going to choose from mouse pointer, we're going to choose edge and get another touching block and choose pipe, because that is the name of my block for the pipes. So what happens when Flappy does touch the pipe? Well, what we want to do is say game over, because it is game over. And how about we broadcast a message as well called game over? So I'm going to broadcast a message which is an event, and stop the other scripts in this sprite. So click on Control, look for Stop Other Scripts. You might be able to find a block that says Stop All. That's what we're going to use. And click on the All arrow and click on the drop down, click Other Scripts in Sprite. When we think of broadcasting, we think of your PA system at school or in the mall. Someone, usually a teacher at school, is going to broadcast something and all the other students will respond, will listen, and if it has something to do with them, they're going to respond to it. Well, Scratch is similar in that sense. When the pipes hears that broadcast game over, when I receive the game over broadcast, I'm going to stop all and click on all and click stop other scripts in this sprite. Yay, okay, I adjusted a few things. I changed the values here from repeating from 7 times. We don't want to repeat 7, I think just 5. 7 is making it go way too high and low. And then changing the Y by 6 instead of 7. And making the pipes a little, the gap a little bit taller. That seems to have done it. So now I can play this game without getting very frustrated and I can go through the pipes. So let's add a score so we can keep track of how many pipes that we have gone across. Click on the variables and create a new variable called score for all sprites. Click on pipes. Create another when I start as a clone. Click Control and click on Wait Until and drag it into the block. Click Variables. And let me just explain what we're doing here first. So what we want to do is every time Flappy Bird's X position, which we're keeping track of, every time the X position of Flappy Bird, whatever it is, goes past the X position of the pipe, that means that Flappy Bird has crossed the pipe and we increase the score by 1. So hopefully that makes sense. So we're going to wait until that happens. We're going to wait until the X position of the sprite. Now this block is hard to find. It's in sensing. You have to click on a block that might look like backdrop number of stage. That block is good enough. Let's bring it into our block editor and click on backdrop and change it to click on stage and change it to Flappy. And change the first one, make sure it says X position. So we want to wait until the X position, until this is greater than X position of the pipe, which is found in the motion category, and clicking on X position. Okay, so right now it's 36. So we want to make sure until this is greater than this. Well, the block that we're looking for is a greater than block found in the green operators category. And we just drag in the two blocks that we want to compare. When this happens, we're going to change the score by 1. And start the sound pop. Now we can have fun playing our Flappy Bird game. It stops when we touch the pipes, but if we go through the pipes, we get 1 point. There we go. And the score should update. Make sure that you're actually changing the score and not just my variable. And let's play this game, Flappy Bird. See if you can beat my high score.